All right. Well, welcome to Two Homers and a Realist. What's been going on, guys? What's new? What's up? We haven't talked in about a week and a half.
I haven't been on
It's
the
about
pod
10
in a minute.
days.
You haven't been on the top pods in quite a
Been on the
while.
last 2 pods.
I miss you
Arguably
guys.
not the
true.
last 3.
Miss you guys. Yeah, that it is 2.5.
Oh,
2.5
that's right. That
pods
third
worth.
Yeah.
pod. Yeah. 3 pods ago.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
So
We had a special request
Barely
for
here.
Mr. R to return.
Mr. R is here.
Yeah, no, the real Mr. R. Well, I'm Steve,
Jay,
Connor,
Lucas.
and a new era has begun in Oklahoma.
the bourbon tastes better.
Everything tastes better. The sky is bluer. The air smells sweet. It is an amazing time to be a Sooner.
A renaissance, you could say.
I would call it that. I would say it has begun. So Brent Venables is now the head coach at the University of Oklahoma. You know how I know that? I was at the airport to witness the arrival, which was extremely well done.
So well orchestrated.
Hats off to OU. Excellent job. I was very, very, very impressed by what they did, what they put together with that.
It's almost like they planned it.
It's almost like they planned it. It was amazing. Yet I don't think they planned for it to be anywhere close to what it was, because I don't see how anyone who has the slightest appreciation for safety would have said, yes, let's get 5,000 people in this area with a fence and a wall between them.
5,000 seems a little much.
No,
You
were you there?
weren't there.
Were you there?
It was.
You weren't there.
I'm telling you, it was thousands. It was insane. It was crazy insane. I got the scars on my arm from the bush I was pushed into to prove it. He almost went into anaphylactic shock as a result.
It was
so epic. It was awesome.
It was a throat closing experience.
It was very, very cool. But so we're here to talk about the new coach, talk about the new staff, talk about the new era, and who wants to kick it off? Who's got some ideas? Who has thoughts about what's going on? Who's happy and optimistic?
Let's go, Connor. It's
Go,
all you.
Let's go, Homer.
I am beyond optimistic. It's been said all week. It's been said since Sunday. We got our guy. And I really think we did. There's obviously, I mean, we've talked about it a little bit. There's a lot of stuff that's up in the air right now, but to see, and I'm just gonna say BV Venables is a mouthful. To see BV hit the road like he's been hitting it this week, you know, he's literally hit the ground running with a lot of recruits. He's getting our name out there, getting his name out there, getting the brand out there. Seeing some of the hires that he's made, some with kind of an eyebrow raise, but at the same time, you can see the culture that he's trying to instill. I don't know. I'm
Toughness culture,
Yeah.
a culture of grit and take it to the enemy. Very different than what the regime that just left town.
We're not going to let our egos win the game anymore.
Yeah.
We're going to let our physicality win the game, and I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm very
If our
optimistic.
players currently can survive Jerry Schmidt.
Yep.
Yeah,
Because the
good
Jerry
point.
Schmidt era had players that probably weren't as diva-ish as we probably have on current roster. So it'll be interesting to see what
That will be very interesting. It'll be interesting to see. My optimism is that Jerry Schmidt went away and learned new things. He definitely was in the SEC where he was exposed to not just that brand of football, which is at a different level than what the Big 12 was in terms of toughness and preparation, but hopefully he saw new ideas and has learned new tricks and updated his own philosophy on what the entire regime of sports medicine, strength and conditioning looks like.
Yeah, I brought this up like middle of the season on
That's
one
right.
of the pods.
That was
I don't
incredibly
think
topical.
That you guys
We weren't.
were in favor of
We
Schmidt
weren't.
coming back.
That's what I'm saying. I hope. That's why I say I
Right.
hope he learned new things.
And my proponent was kind of what you just talked about was A&M has turned into a big, fast, strong, physical football team.
Yep.
And I think it coincides, obviously, with his arrival. And our guys, on the other hand, had no physical development whatsoever and became a bunch of...
And it's not even that. We don't even...
Sissies.
Prima donnas.
Our guys didn't even look like they wanted to do anything physical.
I would agree.
There are times where God, you can go back and look at some of the tape and watch a guy pull up off a tackle or not even go in on a tackle.
What's the last time a safety came up and just destroyed somebody?
Destroyed somebody.
I mean, DTY maybe had 3 out of 30 career starts.
Did you guys see the video that was put together and was circulating of the big hits. Now,
Yes.
honestly,
Gabe Lynn accounted for about 90% of
about
them.
30% of those hits were totally illegal in today's
Stephen
football.
Parker could hit somebody back in the day.
Yes, he could.
But was that Schmitty?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been. Yes, it would have been.
14, 15-ish.
So
Schmitty left in 17.
yeah, so
Okay.
my point would be that with all of that hitting, I know that's a highlight reel, but we see guys now for 6 or 7 years, however long he's been gone, when they go to hit, I guess it's been just 5 years,
They throw shoulders.
they just throw a shoulder and the guy doesn't fall down, he just bounces off and runs for another 10 yards. When those guys hit somebody, his butt was on the ground. Very different style and mentality and strength level.
It was, I'm going to punish you.
And if anything, that was going up against, for at least a piece of that, a more talented, well, definitely a more talented
Big 12.
Big 12. Now, there was a lot of talent on offense in the Big 12 in the 17-18 seasons, but across really just the 17 season to speak of. But if you look at the Big 12 and when they were, Nebraska and Texas and Colorado and everyone was in there, that was a much stronger conference.
I mean, we obviously still lost games all through those years that he was here. But
Well, I don't think because of lack of physicality.
no, but that's what I'm saying. But when you watch the way we lose games the last couple of years,
Yeah.
the other team is bigger,
Manhandles
faster, and
us.
stronger.
and dominates the line of scrimmage,
Period.
which is so important, obviously, in football.
So
It's a fun hire.
my question is we've had a bunch of criticism towards Beatonbow this season. We were talking about the 3 classes he's brought in really haven't done anything. Well,
Right.
that kind of coincides with when Benny Wiley came in.
Right.
Is the offensive line not as dominant because of strength and conditioning?
Great point.
And not necessarily just we've missed on talent.
I'll take it to another Homer optimistic level. I think there's 2 things at work there. One is exactly what you're saying. The strength and conditioning is different. You look at the guys, those mean, just killer instinct guys that were on the 17 offensive line. I think that's definitely fallen off in the last few years. And the other is the fact that Tebow did not take Beatonbow with him, which tells me that there was what was rumored a falling out between the two, and they didn't see eye to eye. And so let's give him a new shot at it, and let's see if he actually has schemes that make sense. And it was Lincoln Riley who was coming up with offensive plays and schemes that were not conducive for winning football games. Maybe we'll get back to basics or whatever it takes to see offensive line production maybe out of Beatonbow's group that is up to the caliber of what we expect in championship football.
With a non-centralized head coach / offensive coordinator,
Yes.
you have to hope that the offense comes together as a unit as opposed to this one, I'm trickling up to one single point and one
Yeah.
single person's idea.
Yeah.
You gotta hope it's more of an effort amongst, okay, here's what Beatonbow sees this week, and here's how it works with what we assume is Levy is going to do. So, I don't know. It's so weird to take off the glasses that we've been wearing, and
The apologist glasses
Yeah.
for Lincoln
Yeah.
in his favor all this time. And honestly, that for the last week and a half, that's been for me taking off those glasses and saying, wow, now I can see this for what it was. And if for no other thing, I see the criticism that so many people around the country leveled on us in our conference, and particularly us when we got to the playoffs. And I kept not wanting to believe it, that we were soft, that we were not up to that caliber, that we couldn't compete with those SEC teams. And I was a bit apologetic for the results on the field, and there were reasons, there were excuses that you can write things off. You can say we're 1 or 2 players away. We had some injuries. We had the suspensions.
everyone's giving us their best shot.
Everyone's giving their best shot. I'm thinking more specifically to the SEC, though, and things are just falling their way. And all of that could be true, and you're just not there. And it's 5 years into this coaching staff, and you're not there. And so now I see it, and I'm optimistic that it's a new start.
You're further away from being there.
Definitely
than
falling
where you
farther
were
away.
Initially.
Well, I think, too, when you aren't expecting your coach to go anywhere, because I don't think anyone expected Riley to be leaving at all within several years.
If anything, just the
You
NFL.
have to, as a fan, come up with other
Right.
reasons of what we need to fix and how
Right.
close we actually are, and etc., because you're not looking at that dynamic of Well, he
we
is
need
going to leave, and we
maybe
are
need-
going to have to reflect.
Or maybe we want to get rid of this guy. We are all turning
Yeah.
to a point. We were getting more critical over the past few years, and
Oh, yeah.
we were critical this year.
It's not revisionist
about-
history that every one of us on this pod said, even after the Tulane game, we took our foot off the gas in the second half. They came back. Western Carolina, we didn't read anything into it, but then
Lots of
starting
red
with
flags.
Nebraska, it was like, where's our offense?
Yeah.
West Virginia, where's our offense? It was
Yeah, and the
week to
most
week
we
to
were
week,
saying was
wondering
it
where
was
our offense
fixable.
is.
We were never saying it was right.
Yeah.
We were never saying it was okay.
We all said the play calling doesn't look anything like the previous 4 years
Yep.
because they didn't.
It did not. And it obviously didn't. The development wasn't there. The taking the next step that even any team does, especially OU, don't just look at Championship November, but just throughout the season, how we always get better. We never got into mid-season form.
And Riley kept saying, we're close, we're close.
We're close.
And then we go into Championship November, where we have always pulled it together in the past, where we have come together as a unit and as a team,
and had
performed,
innovative
and
plays.
it could been extremely innovative, to very much
And physical.
outmatching the opponent, and we come in like a dead fish
Yeah.
and lay an egg in Waco.
Really 3 eggs that were laid, if
Really?
you think about it.
Yeah.
Iowa State is not that much of a challenge of a football team. And I think we see it now. I have no doubt about it that we are heads and shoulders better than any other team in the Big 12 if coached properly throughout this entire year
Oh, yeah, we should be getting ready right now to
to be in the playoff.
get whipped by some playoff team. Yeah,
but it would be probably get whipped.
yeah we would.
But
we
it-
absolutely would.
Well,
Michigan or-
depends on who it
Or
is.
Georgia.
Yeah, Michigan or Bama.
Yeah, Bama.
Bama I'd worry about. Michigan I wouldn't worry as much about.
I
But
agree.
Oh, they dominated Ohio
I don't
State's
know.
line of scrimmage.
I mean, yeah, the line of scrimmage, that's our problem.
That's a good point.
If you look
Good
at,
point.
So back to Smitty, if you look at the last line that he had, that would have been the OU Georgia playoff game.
yeah.
That would have been the last line that he coached up.
How many guys are in the
Look
the
how
NFL?
mean they were too. Like Powers and Samia
And Ford.
and Ford and
Orlando
all those
Brown.
guys.
Orlando
No, they were mean like defenders are supposed
Yes.
to be. They were mean like
yeah.
it was
Like,
incredible.
I'm gonna ruin
Yes.
your life today.
yeah.
And literally, from that point on, the offensive line's gone down.
I'll rewind it
18,
further.
Hey.
18 we were good. 18 we were good.
Yeah, but they
But it had
had
fallen
training
off.
from
It
him
was
for a
still
couple
in
years.
place.
You're right.
It was still
That
there.
line was still there. That's
Yeah.
And the,
any new player who's developed since then was definitely at a
yeah,
lesser caliber.
But like, if you look at Hayes or Robinson, they're just big, fluffy guys.
Marquise Hayes should be one
he
of the
should be
most
a
dominant
beast.
offensive
Absolutely.
he
linemen
should be
in the
an
nation.
absolute beast.
Look at the size of Bray Walker, and the dude barely
Didn't see
stepped
the
on the
field.
field
Didn't see the field.
because he never got coached up the proper way. It didn't look like.
And good riddance as well, Bray Walker. Welcome to the transfer.
Well, I'll rewind what you're saying even farther, much further back in support of what you're saying, and that is if you go back to the 2000 championship game, or championship team, when we played Nebraska, I think 2 Nebraska defensive linemen came out of that game with broken hands because of the way that we manhandled them on the line of scrimmage. And so it's multiple things. One is the strength and conditioning. That's 2 years into to the first years of Schmitty. And it's also just attitude. It's what Brent Venables brings in terms of attitude and aggressiveness and how you play the football game.
Nastiness.
Nastiness. Absolutely. And
So-
we had it on offense and
I'm
defense
looking
back
forward to a
then.
return of nastiness.
So apparently, the reason Smitty left is because him and Lincoln didn't see eye to eye. I don't know. He was probably too hard on the players,
Which
and Lincoln
more
wanted
and more is
of
coming
a-
out that there are hundreds of
lot of
people,
people
Yes.
that
don't
didn't see eye to eye with him
Yes.
throughout the athletic
No,
department.
so he went and left. They went to A&M and was the highest paid strength and conditioning coach in the country. And we were
Tells
all
you
happy
something.
to get rid of him because,
yeah.
I don't know, that's how it is. You got a new regime. you
How
got a new-
ironic or coincidental is paralleling us being so happy to get rid of Brent Venables and telling us that, what does he finish? 8th and 10th in the years 2010 and 2011 in total defense, and we're like, we need to get rid of this guy,
Yeah.
or it's good to see him go, and he's only the best defensive coordinator in the country for the next
He
10
gets
years.
paid that way by Clemson because
Yep.
they understand how good he is.
Yeah. So there was been more talk and more stories coming out, like you guys were saying, how there was no accountability for players in the strength and conditioning program, or if a player missed a practice, or if a player was late to a practice, there weren't
No consequences.
wind sprints. They weren't running stairs at the stadium. They
Well,
weren't
honestly,
doing.
think about the stories with Kyler
They were saying there were people
and the things that he used to be.
asleep.
They used to. It was an ongoing
In team
joke
meetings.
that he didn't make practice.
like asleep in team meetings, and nothing happens to these players. Or star players that they wouldn't name who the players were, but they would show up for strength and conditioning that morning or whatever, and just not feel like doing it.
Right.
and they're just like lay
And
there.
that's okay. You know, I got a
And that's
lot
just
of
not gonna
inside
happen.
stories
And we're
of
gonna
guys
we're gonna lose
who
some
were
people.
other people who were very frustrated because they were doing everything right and they couldn't get a meeting with Grinch, or they couldn't, and they'd get a meeting and he wouldn't show up. And it trickles down from the top when you've got that kind of a mentality and lack of leadership. But you're right. I think we are going to probably wash through some guys that are prima donnas or not fit for this. If they want the glamour and the softness, then they're going to have to go somewhere else.
Go
And
to
I
LA.
think, and I think Venables has probably taken that front and center with the things you hear him say in that well-executed press conference on Monday, the introductory press conference. That was
Phenomenal.
so excellent, so excellent. And you hear him come out, and he's right in their face with it's going to be tough. And you got all the former players coming in to support it. So it's
I mean, Twitter is alive with every player the last
attitude.
15 years.
Yeah.
That you've never heard from.
Yes.
Yeah.
Since
They've been
Bob
silent,
Stoops
which
left.
is so
Yeah,
interesting,
and
isn't
they're
it?
all. Well, Gabe Eichert said today
Oh, that was
he
great.
talked
Yeah.
more with Brent Venables
on
This-
Monday.
on Monday than he did in 5 years of Lincoln
And
Riley.
he didn't know Brent.
And he
He
is
wasn't
a-
even sure that he was going to be recognized by Brent.
and he is a local media personality. He's an important person. He's not just
He's
former
on the
player.
sidelines for every game.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Lincoln never even talked.
Yeah, that's right. He's part of the OU broadcast.
Yes.
That's
Sooner Sports Network.
absurd.
Sideline
He's
report.
staffed.
Well, if you want to look at an example, and I don't want to just make this the beat up Lincoln Riley show, but you look at what he did to Dean Blevins, who, I admit, Dean Blevins is irritating as can be.
Yeah.
But you don't knowingly let someone twist in the wind for 4 hours
Yeah.
and tell them you're just going to be late and then just never show
And
up
take
and never
another
say
job.
anything and take another job. That was awful. That was just a little microcosm of the character of Lincoln Riley.
Did they ever release a coaches show for that game?
No,
No.
they never did one.
Nope. Who on
Again,
staff would
a
have been able to
game-
give that show?
A game.
I was
Tell
wondering.
Gundy,
I was
yes.
wondering if Dean would just go through it by himself and just run through film.
That'd
We
be,
should
that
have.
would be awesome.
We should have and could have and should have won that game.
Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, in the post game, I mean, we're one pass interference correct call away from winning
Right.
the Big 12 title.
But I mean, that's with I give
Even
credit
with
to
all
our
that.
kiddos
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
everything that's going on and the discombobulation and the coaches not being on the same page.
Yep.
And the weight training apparently sucks and etc. We still should have won the Big 12.
And losing Bedlam could have been the best thing to happen to our team.
Yep.
Very, very
It really could because of the timing of everything. Now, I think Brent Venables is still coach. I think all that still happens, but it's weird how it might happen. So if we,
He wouldn't be on the road recruiting right now because
I don't know what he'd be doing.
No, but I mean, it took us.
No.
Let's just say Lincoln left after we won the
we
Big
don't know
12
when
championship.
he'd leave. I don't know if he
He'd
even
have
would have
to
left
leave.
then.
He has to. He has to recruit for his new school.
yeah.
Not necessarily.
It's similar to like when Brian Kelly leaves Notre Dame to go to LSU.
Maybe.
There was a chance that they
I know.
could have gone to the playoffs.
I know.
depending on how
And
everything
he-
shook
I know,
out
but
on-
there's a better chance for OU, and he might not because he might have been teeing it up so that he never did. My conspiracy theory is not only was he playing LSU against USC to negotiate and figure out what his contract needed to be, I think at the same time he was using it as a plausible reason to tell recruits, okay, I'm in the middle of this contract negotiation. Yes, I'm talking to LSU. You just need to leave your options open. Basically, recruit them to go with him wherever he lands.
Recruit
And
to
then
him
he
and not
might
the
give
school.
them the secret word
to them.
on December 15th. Don't sign. Wait. Because you don't have to sign. And they don't sign, and then I don't know what happens.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that
I don't
many
think
kids
he's
can
telling
do
recruits
that
anything
though.
like that because there's too many kids.
You can't
that would be
afford
on
to do
Twitter.
that.
But can you imagine? You just take a look at what happened with which I get it. They're West Coast kids, want to stay home, whatever. You can argue that. You look at how quick, with literally the snap of a finger,
they change.
that they said, I don't even care about anything else.
Right.
So what is he? Pitching?
What has he been
is
telling
pitching
them?
in those
Yeah.
conversations?
So back to my
to
conspiracy.
say
What has he been saying?
that these kids are committing to him and not to the school? And I get you.
And
do
Malachi
you do
Nelson-
commit largely to a coaching staff.
And Nelson and Lemon were both in the week before on
Yeah,
visits.
they took videos. OU
Yeah.
posted videos of them. All this
Well,
stuff.
oh, you did. They're not allowed to do that with recruits.
Yes, they are. They are now. Yes, they are. It's changed. So as long
They
as
can retweet, but they can't post.
that's right. So they're allowed to take the video and produce it, but as long as the kid
The kid
posts
posts
it, they
oh, you
can retweet it.
Right.
Yes, you're right. That's a good correction. But again, to Steve's point, it is very, very odd the quick change
Love
of
to
the tide.
see what would happen if we beat OSU, what does that week look like?
Well-
and then if we beat OSU again, what does what
And then
what does it
the
look like?
reports were that LSU didn't find out he wasn't taking the job until the
Sunday.
Bedlam.
Yeah.
When Kerry asked him.
Yeah.
he
And they
started
had
the
a
question,
banquet
he said,
ready.
Let me stop right there. I'm not going to be the next head coach at LSU. That's when LSU found out he wasn't going there.
It would be very
They had
interesting to
catering
talk to
scheduled for the
someone
next
from
day.
LSU to see if they give us the inside scoop and say, yeah, he did us wrong. Everything you're talking
Oh,
about
yeah.
this guy,
I guarantee there is.
I bet it is true. Anyway, again, let's talk about the hires we are
The future.
or the future and the hires we suspect, even though we haven't gotten full confirmation, and the hires that we're rumored on in terms of filling out the rest of the coaching staff. So Levy is the incoming. It looks like
I
the
think
incoming.
I'm
at-
pretty
I
sure
think
it's
he's been-
official.
offensive
he's been
coordinator.
recruiting
I think
for
he's
OU.
signed. I
They
think
just
he's
haven't
signed
done
the
announcement.
contracts and everything.
But I would bet he has too. But
Yeah.
OU has not made an
Right.
official announcement, and we don't know anything about a defensive coordinator yet.
We don't. There's just the rumors on the boards are it's going to be someone
From
underwhelming
Clemson staff.
on purpose to save room for more money to get a bigger D-line coach and secondary coach.
And more
more secondary staff, analysts and stuff.
analysts. So how do you guys feel
if
about
Brent
all that?
Venables is going to... It sounds like he's going to call the plays. I think he's going to call the plays.
I would imagine. I'm not too keen on all of that.
I thought he said in the thing he wasn't. He said he was hiring a defensive coordinator and that they would be calling the plays.
I thought so too.
Well, if
Thought
that's
he
the
was
case-
asked that in the press conference on Monday after the announcement.
If that's the case, then I don't think it's going to be some insignificant person that they hire then. Because
I would imagine it's
Rumor
a great
has it it's someone
stepping
who's in the
stone
playoff,
job.
Right? It's in a.
it was.
it's a-
Okay, here's the other rumors on that. Supposedly they've been trying to get Lanning from Georgia. And
Which
they
is
thought
amazing.
they had him.
That's a lateral move at best.
I know, but he's
Eh.
not fully...
He may get
He's a
more
co-
autonomy.
He's a co-DC there.
Well,
Or some other thing. And Muschamp is on staff, which is like best friends with
Kirby.
So it would be a good reason for Georgia to kind of...
But you're
Let him
still
go,
not,
too.
You're still
Muschamp.
not stepping out into your own under a defensive head coach.
I agree. But the word is that
Yeah, but it might
they
be
thought we had
best
him.
of both worlds. I
They
mean,
thought we
it,
had
it, it gives him a chance to learn new things from a
And
One more
legend
guy.
in the
shed
One
some
more guy.
accountability off
Right.
him as well.
and then at the same time then make a move. So I would imagine, in fact, I think it's a healthy environment is if you're running offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators in and out of your program every couple of years
Means you're
because
doing
they're taking other jobs
Means you're doing
well,
well.
that's
Just
what
like
it does
Levy.
in
because
the
you're doing that
2000s.
well.
Yeah.
Exactly.
We went Leach, Mangino, Chuck Long,
Kevin
Kevin Wilson.
Wilson.
Yeah.
That was in like a 9-year period.
Yeah.
We had 4 offensive coordinators.
And
we
every
got
one
Josh
of
and
them
we had great offenses.
was great
and
offense.
They all took jobs as head coaches and all failed, except for Leach. Well, Mangino,
Yeah, but
Mangino
it's
didn't
but
fail
it's
either.
Yeah,
hard.
Mangino
No,
didn't-
Mangino didn't
Long
fail.
failed and Kevin Wilson failed.
Kevin
Yes.
Wilson had
Well, he
But-
went to Indiana.
But you say failed.
yeah, why?
It's hard to be a head coach. Most of them fail, and if failure is getting fired, that's actually even worse
Mike
because
Stoops failed.
almost everybody gets fired, and the replacement coach only does as good as the coach that they fired.
Well, I wouldn't consider
So-
Leach a failure, and he got fired.
no,
No.
Leach is
Right,
still
exactly.
going strong.
Mangino wasn't
No.
a failure. He got fired.
No, and he went to Indiana,
but
and
Chuck
you
fired
went
for
to
walking
San
into
Diego
the
State.
shed.
Yeah.
Anyone could get fired because their expectation.
Right.
What the hell are their expectations? I guess 11-1, since that's what San Diego State was this year.
Well,
Were
I
they
mean, my expectation
11-2?
would be like
I
when
guess.
Kirby Smart left Bama to go to Georgia.
Yeah,
You want your coaches to go do that,
that's unrealistic.
or Jimbo Fisher from Saban's tree is outrageous.
That's very.
Is Dabo on Saban's tree?
No, he just
no.
went there
just went
because the only one that's ever beaten him is A&M.
Jimbo Fisher.
That was the first time
This
anyone
year.
ever beat him. Yep.
Yep.
This year.
Yeah, but but he's had successes like
Oh, yeah.
Kirby Smart's a success,
Yeah.
even
Yeah.
though he hasn't beat him.
Yeah, but
Jimbo was a success, even
Yeah.
though he hadn't beat him.
yeah,
Um,
but you're looking at
Remember
what about
Mark
Mark Richt? Was he?
Kiffin.
Kiffin.
Kiffin's kind of a iffy.
you're looking at a lot of
Yeah.
guys
He's
who
10-2 this year.
I mean they've had success. Yes,
Mel Tucker?
yes, they've had great success,
Mel
but
Tucker, yeah.
but that's a mixed bag, and it's not that uncomparable from what the Stoops tree has
Right.
has brought as well.
But see, Lincoln Riley couldn't lose his offense coordinator
No,
because it was him.
So
Yeah.
he lost himself. I guess,
yet he
yeah.
did. Yet we did. We lost it all. So, how do we feel about those coaches, though? We don't know who the DC is going to be.
If we can get Todd Bates, the D-line coach from Clemson, would
Which
be
it sounds like we would.
absolute home run. I
Sounds
mean,
like
he's,
we're going to get him. I
he's
don't know
been
why we haven't gotten him.
National Recruiter of the Year like 2 years ago. Everyone knows the D-line.
Is anyone at the bus stop? Is anyone checking out the bus
I
stop?
don't know.
Maybe they've arrived.
Already.
But that is a massive, massive get there. And
Clemson just lost their AD as well to Miami.
Yeah.
So
Which
and
is
then
weird.
At
they've
corner,
lost their
Very
AD
odd.
and they've lost their defensive
And
coordinator.
Cristobal going to
So,
Miami, weird.
at corner, there's
Weirdest coaching
a guy-
head coaching year ever.
I don't know the name, so forgive me. But there's a DB coach at Georgia, who is an option. I don't remember how he's connected to Venables. And there's a DB coach at Michigan,
Yeah, I saw that.
who
one.
is like from Youngstown,
From Youngstown,
Ohio.
has Stoops connections.
Yeah, that's right.
I
Worked
think
with
he
Mark
worked at
Stoops.
Kentucky.
That's right.
Worked with Mark Stoops.
So that's
yeah.
a
I think
close
there's
There
connection
was somebody
there.
from Troy that was rumored too.
It was one of his assistants or analysts back in the day
Clemson.
who went up to Troy or something like that.
Well, I think that I got a lot of faith they're going to put together a good staff. I would like to see it come together sooner rather than later.
Either way,
Right.
I think on paper, next year's staff compared to what we just lost
On
Should
the
be a large-
defensive
is
side of the
significantly
ball.
better.
I don't
Even offensively, I don't know. I don't know that it's
probably
even
a
I mean,
worse.
we-
decent upgrade.
I mean, you've still got Gundy, DeMarco, Joe John Finley, which I wasn't impressed with what Joe John did this year. Stogner.
well, if he had
never did
anybody, if he had
anything.
anybody,
It is
decent
really hard to
actually-
say anything about this year, though, right? Because you had Lincoln Riley leaving.
Beatonbow staying.
They're
So
calling
we-
the plays
So we
as
need
well.
a Dennis Simmons replacement.
I think it's just going to be Gundy. I think he's
so.
going to have all the wide receivers because there's not room.
I think
the
that
numbers
can be fine.
to add another.
I think it's
offensive
enough.
guy.
he was already,
Both sides of the
he
ball.
was
I think
already
it's an
the
The only
upgrade.
reason we
receivers
could. The only reason we could is because we didn't have an
Lincoln was
OC.
the OC, yeah.
Right.
When you adjust for the fact that they are playing in the SEC, you might say that Lebby is an upgrade from Lincoln.
Well,
just
he
on,
is
on
statistically.
paper, statistically
yes.
on paper. And I know we want that to be the case, but
Can we get a special teams coach this go round?
That's
yeah,
So
I
what,
don't
that was
know.
my question. So usually you see coordinators take a position group. Is Lebby going to take a position group, or is he just going to be
he's going to be
Probably
quarterback coach.
quarterback?
Yeah.
Venables
yeah,
will probably
duh.
be the linebacker.
Are we in the Archie Manning?
The Arch Manning apparently.
Or Arch Manning, I mean.
Everyone's saying he could be interested.
That's what I
There's
keep
no-
hearing. Yeah.
But we
Is
offered
he a
that
23 kid?
Yeah, he's a ways
kid. We
away.
offered that 2022 kid yesterday, who's coming in
Yeah.
tomorrow
He
or
committed
this
from
weekend.
Florida.
Him and his good buddy,
The wide
awesome.
receiver,
The
who
big
God,
kid.
we need a wide receiver.
6'5" guy.
Yeah, so I like that.
Yeah. I do
Lebby has a
too.
draw to him, which is that's another thing. Like you're taking the we'll get to that in a minute, Lucas. But you take the glasses off again. We always think of Lincoln as this quarterback whisperer and all this good stuff. You know,
Bloom
there
is
are
off that rose, by
There
the
are
way.
other people who have a draw and an attraction to
That's
say
right.
you can develop me and make me into a. I mean, God, look what Matt Corral became.
Well, even
Like insane.
Well, it's
even
going to
a
be.
lot
go
of-
ahead.
sorry, a lot of national people have said, you know, that the talent really isn't that great at Ole Miss, and
And
they
yet
were
you see the
running
production.
through, literally running through, like 255 yards a game.
Yeah.
Through the SEC defenses.
Yeah.
And that's something we've had a hard time
That's
doing.
saying
lately.
it says
It's
a
'cause
lot
their
about that.
uniforms are so cool.
Except against Auburn and against Florida and against Bama one game and against Georgia for 3/4 of a game.
But that's
we did well with some of that.
Yeah.
So it's going to be interesting to see, back to Lincoln just for a minute, how the old quarterback whisperer really looks. And when obviously recruits can be pretty short-sighted and fickle, and that could work both ways. But he has had a really bad year this year with a couple of quarterbacks. Last year wasn't great. The year before that was truly a transfer that came in. You can say I put the guy in the NFL, but Alabama can say the same thing about the same kid. So you're getting to where the thing that made you famous is now several years in the past. It's going to be interesting to see going forward where they are. And I want to circle back to, and I know I keep saying not about Lincoln, but this is in reference to us in the future. I want to get back to, so remind me, how we think USC is going to be in the future, how Lincoln Riley is going to be, because I've got a take on all of that may or may not be pretty contrarian. But before that, let's talk about Lebby and your reservations about Lebby, Lucas.
My reservations are the whole Baylor situation. I don't know how much he was involved with the allegations with the cover-up of the rapes. It does sound like when he was running back coach female student on campus that was dating one of the running backs was physically assaulted by a boyfriend 3 times. Three different times that she was assaulted by a running back that Levy coached, and she confronted him about what happened, and nothing ever happened nothing ever was done about it. He's Art Briles' son-in-law. Don't love that. He was wearing the shirts that said #CAB for Coach Art Briles after he was fired, and continued to stump for him, essentially acting like he didn't do anything wrong and that he was wrong with the whole firing situation, and just stood up for him, which, yes, it's your father-in-law, but with the mountain of evidence to me that the investigation got on the whole situation, and the president resigned, the athletic director resigned, Briles was fired. It seems like that's way too much stuff going on for it to not be true.
Well, there were firings. Obviously, there was awful things that went on at Baylor. But keep in mind what you did say with which accusation. And at this point, all we have is one accusation against Lebby that he failed to report something. We don't know more.
Do we know he failed to report?
We don't know. We don't know
That's
any
what I
of
mean.
that.
Like,
we don't even know any of that.
Maybe he told who he was supposed to
To
tell.
tell. We don't
and
know
they
anything.
Didn't do anything. And I'm just playing devil's advocate. 'Cause
I agree.
I don't know.
I agree. We don't
So-
know.
So you're saying it's like the Penn State coach that went to Paterno and said, "Hey, I saw Sandusky in the bathroom with a little
No,
kid."
I'm saying
and then it never went any further.
we
than
don't
that?
even know about that situation. To be honest, that is not completely clear. But that one aside, we don't know anything about this. All we have is the accusation that she made, and it didn't go any further. She did not file a lawsuit. There was not any legal action taken against Levy. There was
Yeah,
not even
yeah,
legal
but
action taken against Briles.
Does she have?
But in the rape situations, there was evidence that Briles was working with the police department to cover the whole thing up. How do we know that whatever this little situation was?
We
far
don't.
as-
And that's the
it
answer.
Could be. It could be.
We don't know.
So to me, there's 20 other people in this country that can coach offense just as well as
I tell you,
Levy.
it's completely
Why aren't we
unfair.
going after one of those
That's
guys?
completely unfair. Two, not that it matters, but there's not 20 probably that can coach as well as him.
I bet there are.
But even if there are, the quality of their coaches shouldn't matter. You should on principle be for or against Lebby regardless of how good he is. If he's Bill Belichick, you should be against him if what you believe is true, that he's done something unethical or immoral.
That's right.
But you don't have anything to go on other than guilt by association and completely assuming that there must be something bad there because other things bad went on in an area he was close to.
All I can, from my end of it, is I have hope that, and I do believe that this happened, that he was extremely vetted, and there are people at
Joe C.
OU
And you know
that
Joe C's
can
policies.
dig a lot deeper than any of us can on
And
the
what about
internet.
Mississippi?
It's a
Or do
research
anything.
university.
And Mississippi as well.
a lot of national merit scholars.
That's all I can think of.
Mississippi
I
as
don't
well
think-
as OU
I don't
vetted
think
this
Joe
guy.
C. would
Mississippi
allow.
vetted him. I mean, come on. We know what that school's like.
No, we
Hell,
don't.
they hired Lane
We
Kiffin.
don't.
We've seen what Kiffin's done in his career.
UCF too.
He's
What has he done?
Did we say that? He went to UCF
And he
then
went to
Ole
UCF.
Miss.
So there's three different schools.
That's the first thing I saw was the Florida. There was some vetting in Florida that happened as well. But even I want to go back to your point around the fact that there's 20 ex guys out here that can beat. It's not just that they can coach. Look at what Lebby's already doing on the recruiting aspect of it. There's not 20 other guys who can go and recruit or even make Caleb Williams stay at OU. You go get. God, I
There's
don't
two.
know.
We're not basing the program on one guy. And-
Okay, but
and
you're
how
basing it
about-
on future guys, and then to get future guys, you need to have some aspect of credibility to say,
Who did
I
Caleb-
can develop you.
Who did Caleb commit to before he came to Oklahoma?
Joe Brady.
Joe Brady, who's unemployed right now. Joe Brady.
Okay, that's
That
not
seems
even
like it
that's
could be
not
a-
even that's not even very.
There's one of your
That's
20
not
guys that could
comparable.
probably do
You
that.
get fired from the NFL.
Well-
doesn't mean he's gonna be the offensive coordinator of LSU. for
There's
many
two
years.
there's two hangups potentially with that. One is Joe Brady's salary is probably a lot higher. Two, he may just not work well with Brent Venables and the entire athletic department of OU. There may not be
Has
a
Levy
meeting
ever
of the
worked with
minds
Brent
there.
Venables before?
Well, he's best friends with Joe John Finley, and he's the one apparently that Brent Venables wants to hire. So I'll
Well,
go with that.
Lebby ran Brent Venables scout team from 02 to 06.
So there's that. I mean,
Levy
the
is
connection's
familiar
there.
with recruiting
was
in the
listed
area
as a
that we're going to be
student
playing
assistant
in, and he's
from
going to be familiar with the teams
I think
that we're
that's a
playing.
In
strong
his bio,
point.
he's listed as a student assistant from 02 to 06. You're going to tell me he ran the entire scout team as a student assistant?
I
He's
don't
not
know.
even a
That's just what I've
GA.
heard.
Look how good of an offensive coordinator he
Yeah,
is.
I'm not buying
Absolutely believe
So what
it.
are we arguing about, though? Are we arguing about the guy being a quality athletic
We're arguing
offensive
because
coordinator,
it-
or are we
Lucas has a
arguing
bad
because we
taste in
think
his
that he is
Should he be?
unethical or immoral? And we don't have anything to go on. I honestly, to be frank, I'd say it's immoral to sit there and judge somebody with no evidence and to say that he shouldn't be employed because he happens to be tangential to a difficult
How
situation.
could there be evidence if the police were helping cover everything up?
Well, that's a
And that was proven.
At what
in the
point is this just a
investigation by the
conspiracy
NCAA.
theory?
That's why he lost his job. That's why the president. How often does a president step down?
What would
How
it-
often does the athletic director step down? That's super rare.
I'm not saying what Baylor did was right. I'm not saying that Ken Stark and the athletic director and Art Briles had blood on their hands in that situation, but we don't know anything like this about Levy. I'm saying, what would it take to change your mind about Levy? You
don't know.
seem to have made your mind up about something that you have no evidence for.
I'm just saying it doesn't feel right. That's all I've said. I didn't say personally. If I was the athletic director, I would have to have done the most craziest deep dive and polygraph and everything you can think of
Polygraphs
for
aren't.
But I
somebody
mean, I'm
real.
guessing they
to
did.
convince me that he had no hand.
Do you
in
think
anything
Josie
involved.
did? Do you think Josie did those things?
I don't know.
Why would Josie do it with everyone and everything else that he goes about? Like, God, we have been.
It
like,
would be
this week
so
was
out of
insane.
character
It was just
for
like,
him.
Actually, I only do this with the heads of my program. Anybody else goes.
And here's another feature that gives me a lot of confidence, because that's all we can do is have confidence that they are doing the job we're hoping they're doing in regard to exactly that.
And it's going to get brought up too.
Is that I don't know exactly how it went
It's been brought
down.
up that OJ didn't kill his wife and her boyfriend.
But he
and
did.
He said plenty of times, I didn't do anything. And you were just going to take him for his word?
God,
no,
that is
that's-
a terrible parallel.
Does
Slightly-
he run the spread?
A slightly different analogy.
Holy cow!
He was a great running back. We should hire him.
Is he looking
He's
for a job?
available.
He'll be hanging
So-
out with Lincoln at
Actually,
some
he was
point.
pretty happy with Lincoln hire if you watch his...
I did.
watch his
So
TikTok or
that's
whatever he
a
did.
different kind of association.
Two backstabbers.
So we
in
yeah, two
one university.
backstabbers.
So I think that all we can do is we can take solace and confidence in Josie that he is doing the job that we hope he's doing to vet this. But I will say that I don't know this for a fact, but I believe, actually I do know for a fact that Brent Venables was the man for the job from the get-go. That he was offered the job, everything was a done deal early last week. But my understanding is, or my supposition is, the regents required, and potentially Harris as well, required him to go through the motions, interview some other people, and talk to some other people. They asked him, I'm believing, to do some vetting and to do some thinking about this. I would believe they know about the Levy situation. They know about the
Obviously.
Baylor situation. I'm going to guess they're going to ask for the same level of scrutiny because they don't want a scandal on their hands. They don't want something to come down that's bad.
Don't you have to interview a certain amount of people?
I don't know. It
Also-
used to be you had to
also-
interview.
NFL.
You don't have to do that in college?
I don't think
You
so.
used to have to interview so many minority candidates,
Right.
but maybe they did away with that because maybe it just naturally happens, or they did away with it because there are a lot
It's
of black
the Rooney
coaches
rule
now.
in the NFL. It's not a college deal.
Would it used to be a college deal?
I don't think so.
Okay, I can't remember.
And from what
Here's
we've
the
heard,
other
they did
thing.
interview Aranda on Saturday.
Right.
After the
right.
after
Again,
the
not to
win.
get back to Lincoln, but don't you
let's
have
get
to ask a school's permission
You do.
to speak with their coach?
You do. You have
So-
to ask anybody under contract. You have to ask the
Right.
members of the contract.
Oregon came out publicly and said this week that Miami never contacted them at all before they took Cristobal.
So what's going to be
Which is
the-
not surprising, knowing what we know about Miami.
Yeah.
That statement.
I
They
mean, what's the
released is
fallout from
insane.
that? What's
I would
the
imagine it's
punishment?
legal actions. I would imagine that if it's not a lawsuit, it's going to be the threat of a lawsuit that results in a settlement. Very much like, ironically or coincidentally or not so coincidentally, the Tennessee Titans v. USC when they took Kiffin away and they didn't ask for permission and the Titans pursued that and they got a settlement. I think you're going to see the same thing. You got tortious interference with a contract. On Lincoln's part, you got lack of best efforts. You got the fact that he's, and that is a charge before you look at the fact that he's recruiting on OU's dime. Then you've got what he's doing with
the
Manning.
interstate commerce
It
stuff.
is not looking good all around. It is an election year for Attorney General in Norman, or Cleveland County. So that's going to be real interesting to see how that goes down. There's a lot of stuff that could happen legally. I don't think it'll be some magnificent show. I think the rumors about a Christmas Day lawsuit are nonsense, at least the soap opera nature of that. But I do think there's going to be legal action pursued of one kind or another. I would imagine they ask for more money, and they may ask for some prohibitions on some players, and they may approach the NCAA to say, we need to get some investigation going on of what's going on here because of the way these kids were recruited, etc. That'd be my guess.
So, back to the football talk of it. I've been a huge fan of the Briles
Style.
offensive scheme.
Me too.
Cut that where he just said Briles.
Yeah,
Huge fan
that
of
will be all
Briles.
it is. I'm a huge fan of Briles.
That's right.
Do you
We could,
support Ray?
we could dub that. I'm a huge fan of Browse.
So when it comes to
Say
that,
the word rape and then say overrated.
Right. So between that system and whatever little things he's picked up from Josh Heupel, and say what you will, here he did not so great.
I agree.
Since then, he's been significantly
Underrated.
better. And
Underrated.
Lane Kiffin,
Mike Stoops and Josh
He
Heupel,
brought down
underrated.
he brought the UCF team down. They went from winning
From
a national
Frost.
championship with Frost.
Still.
That's
to-
lightning
to
in a
not.
he's
bottle.
pulled Tennessee up.
Scott Frost pulled an Ed Orgeron of UCF.
There you
with
go.
That team.
But anyways, I love the offensive system. It's super simplistic. It's still physical. It's a
efficient.
rundown. It's a downhill running game.
Well, if you read the
Really
articles about it
spread
from
wide.
the time, they were revolutionary
I would
because they
say-
were exploiting things that were stuff no one else would take advantage of, and they said, look at this, we can do this, we can run this play, we can run these type of plays, and just exploit this loophole in football.
The only weakness I've seen, without like super diving into X's and O's, is I don't know that the receivers have to run the full route tree, and so they don't make it to the NFL or aren't successful once they get there. I don't know if the recruits know that. I don't know if the high school kids understand that, so it might not matter
Well,
in
and-
terms of getting kids here because they put up massive
It
numbers
may have changed
in
from
that system.
Yeah.
But Baylor has basically nobody in the NFL from all those years of having incredible wide receivers.
Track stars.
Yeah, who do they have? What was the kid's name? I'm thinking of the Western Michigan kid, Corey Davis, but there was a Baylor kid who, I can't remember his name.
Somebody went in the first round, like the 7th overall pick,
Yeah,
like
and he was
Kendall,
really
Redskins.
good.
Kendall
Wright.
Wright, something.
Kendall
Yeah,
Wright,
done
yeah,
nothing.
Kendall Wright was up there. There's another guy they had too.
I mean,
Yeah,
they-
but they were under staffed in terms of recruiting and who they had talent-wise.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
mean,
but
keep
they also
thinking of
had
that, too.
a legendary Texas high school football coach as their head coach that had the biggest network of Texas.
Yeah,
high
he
school
was still
coaches.
recruiting to Baylor.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I mean, that's tough.
Yeah.
Like I said, that's
They're also
small
getting
potatoes
kids.
in terms of.
They're also getting a lot of kids.
I
But I
mean,
think- what
are
I
we
think
arguing
over
about
this-
whether we're excited or not? Because I'm with you,
Yeah.
Jay. I'm real excited.
Yeah.
I'm real excited
I'm pumped. I
about
think
how
it's
good they
great.
can be. So let's talk about that. Who's going to have a better record next year, USC or Oklahoma?
I mean, I haven't looked at schedules, but I mean, I would still pick us. I don't think we're going to be that far down.
I'm taking heavy money on us, actually.
Corey Coleman was the Baylor
Oh,
receiver.
yeah, that's
I'm
right.
thinking of. He was really good.
I'm predicting USC is going to be 6-6 next year. They're a 4-8 team this year.
Who's their non-con? They have like LSU.
They
and
don't. They don't play Oregon. I've heard, but I haven't looked.
Well, you know, they've got Notre Dame.
They got Notre Dame. They probably have Stanford.
UCLA.
Regardless, they're not that good of a team.
Oregon's not going to be Oregon unless they get a good
Yeah,
replacement.
so that might not even matter. They probably play Utah.
Utah's going to be their nemesis as long as their coach stays.
Yeah.
Because the exact thing that Lincoln cannot beat is what Utah is all about.
Exactly.
I think the records will be similar. I think it'll probably both be 8-4.
I bet Lincoln does.
I'll
fairly
bet against
well.
that both ways. I'll take the over on OU and I'll take the under
I
on
will say right
USC.
now they only have 4 commits for the 22 class. Now they might get a run here soon, but they're like 80th or something right now in the recruiting rankings. Like,
Yeah, I don't care if they're first. They're not going to turn a 4-8 team into a conference title contending team.
my only thing with Lincoln,
USC's pretty. It's got a pretty good layup season.
It is an easy schedule. I've heard.
Rice, Fresno State could be trouble.
Fresno State could be trouble.
totally
They
be
just
him.
hired a brand new coach.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
could
but
be
it's
tough.
like-
Tedford.
Yeah, he's
And
a good coach.
Notre
I mean,
Dame's
he
their
was-
other non-con. They do not play Oregon. Their toughest conference opponent is obviously Utah, and that is their
Arizona's terrible.
UCLA,
Arizona State's
UCLA,
average.
they might lose Chip. But
UCLA. Yeah, I think Chip's going to go to Oregon.
So looking at their schedule,
if Chip goes to
probably
Oregon,
7-5,
you know
8-4.
who might take that UCLA job?
I don't.
Aranda.
Oh, that's right. He's from there.
He's from there.
That's right.
That's
he
a
wanted to go
late
home-
hire, though.
That's not a good job.
It's
I,
not a
I
good
agree.
job.
It's not a good job.
Do you want to go?
When's the last time
Is it better than
UCLA's been
Baylor?
relevant?
Not
That's a
with-
great
No,
point.
It's
not
better
in the
than
Big
Baylor.
12. It's not.
Yeah, I agree with Lucas
I
on
think-
that.
It's
I
the
think
Lincoln
Baylor-
Riley. It's the Lincoln Riley being a little bitch.
Baylor's got a
Aranda
lot
could
of
do the same
money.
thing.
I think
Aranda could go
Baylor-
out there. Aranda could go out there and be like, I can beat this guy. I'm not afraid of this guy.
I don't know. We've
USC.
been both to UCLA
There's
and
nobody in
Baylor.
Oregon.
They give a shit about it.
Baylor
in,
is set
in
up
Baylor.
for
They don't in
greatness
UCLA.
if Aranda stays, because with OU and Texas leaving the Big 12, their only competition
Cincinnati.
is Oklahoma State,
BYU.
and Fickle will probably leave Cincinnati.
Yeah.
Before they get to the Big 12.
It's hard to know if there's any competition.
It's probably
is-
With
Oklahoma
Knowles
State.
gone, I don't know if
Matt
Oklahoma
Campbell
State's going to be
probably
that
takes another
good.
job somewhere.
I don't know if Oklahoma State's that good this year.
Matt Campbell's being talked about for Oregon too, though.
If Ryan Day takes the Chicago Bears job, which I don't know why you would hire a new defensive coordinator. Well, I guess because
Fickle
you don't know
goes-
if you're taking it.
Fickle goes
Fickle
to
will go to
Ohio
Ohio State.
But
Oh,
Baylor's,
I would love that.
Baylor's set up.
Sign me up for
When
that.
OU and Texas
right
are out of
now.
this conference, Baylor's set up to run the table.
Yeah. Texas Tech
Plus, when we were there,
has put together a strangely really good
Decent
staff.
when we were there, they had a $100 million donation for a new practice facility and like a basketball
Crazy.
gym or something too. So
that's
there's
right,
money
crazy.
at Baylor,
Yeah, there is.
and they've got a brand new stadium
Oh, there's more money at Baylor than there is at UCLA, and more
Yes.
money willing to be spent
and fans
for sure.
So what's
and
interesting at
fans.
Tech is
got
there's
Skip
two
and Joey.
former players created some. I don't remember if it was something
It was oil and natural
technology
gas.
wise or if it was oil and natural
It
gas,
was,
some
yeah.
product or
They
something.
got in some oil and natural
Yep.
gas,
And they
things,
sold
and
it for like $3 billion or something.
Yeah.
Right.
And I guess
Right.
they're fully in, just like we would if we all became billionaires.
Yeah.
we are
Right.
fully loaded on getting our team where it needs to go. So
Yeah.
Tech's
Good for them.
interesting.
Good for them. I mean,
Yeah,
the
Tech
fact
is
that,
interesting
The
that
fact that
way.
we're even mentioning the Ewers, the Ewers conversation for him to be a quarterback there,
Yeah.
is, I mean,
There's
that
still a
says
long
something.
way from being a strong, competitive, long-term program.
Yeah, we've
But
got to
that does help
change.
a lot of things.
But I mean, outside of Oklahoma, Baylor's probably been the second best team in the Big 12 in the last
Consistently.
15 years.
Consistently, yeah.
I mean, the Bryles
Yeah.
era was rolling.
outside of the year they lost
Matt
every game.
Rule had it
and
going.
Matt Rule's first year,
yeah.
they were
15 years is a little long.
Well, I mean, Broyle. I mean,
I'd say
Bryles
the last
is what?
decade.
09
Yeah,
to
decade,
15-ish.
Yeah, maybe
At
s-
least a decade.
So
Okay,
close.
a decade.
It was
Yeah.
RG3 was the start of everything.
I'd agree.
And
Yeah.
that was 2011.
So I mean, outside of
agree.
us, I mean,
I'd
Texas,
agree.
they've been better than Texas.
Who Texas
other
wanted
than 2-3
to play
years.
safety.
Yep. The problem with the Big 12 and all of these jobs is you're playing in the Big 12. And I do think you play down to the level of competition, and I think there's a softness, and that's why I went out of this conference. If Lincoln Riley completes 5 years at USC, which I believe he will not, I think it's about 50-50 right now, which I
think
give
he
a
jumps at the NFL the first chance he gets.
I think there's the risk to jump to the NFL, the risk to jump to another job, the risk to be fired. That is all three of them fairly significant. But if he makes it 5 years, I believe his record at USC will be below 75% winning. He's at 85%, and sadly, our winningest coach, he will be the winningest coach in the history of OU football, almost certainly. Of
I'm
anyone
down
with
on
a
Lincoln.
tenure.
I'm not that down on Lincoln. Just because what he does is he gets elite talent in, doesn't coach them up.
You think he'll win more than 75% of his games? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, he.
That's sort of my
he
over-under, and I'm
wins-
taking the under.
He wins
That's a lot of
9-10 games from out-talenting other
the
teams.
the names on the back of the jersey.
And that's it.
Yeah.
How many
I
years
don't
away
think-
from that is he?
2.
2 or 3? I mean,
I guess he
several
could be
years.
3.
So it.
USC,
So when I'm
I
saying
don't
5
think
years,
USC's void of talent.
in 5 years, he's not inheriting the 2017.
No, but I still don't
Sooners.
think they're void of talent.
The only thing.
Where
thing
are
that-
they compared to the rest of the Pac-12? Middle of the road at best.
Well, the whole Pac-12 sucks outside of Oregon and
Yeah.
Utah, so
But
it's
the-
not that hard to turn around.
Well, it must be pretty
The
tough
only
because they
thing-
only won 4 games.
But you can
They
exploit.
fired their coach.
September.
Well, I know what I'm
yeah,
saying.
September.
I know
So
they're
we had an
weak.
interim staff.
I
in
know
there.
they're weak. They're at the bottom of that. They're the bottom half of that conference.
There will be some climbing
I
out.
don't know.
to
I think they're better than a 4-win team.
I do too.
I think next year the third.
probably.
Depending on what happens at Oregon.
Next year, yes,
USC's probably the third best team in the conference. Maybe fourth. You've got
maybe.
Utah's probably the best. Oregon's there.
Maybe.
And then Washington/Washington State.
Well, they
maybe.
just got a new.
I don't know. Oregon
Washington
State,
got a new
Oregon
coach.
State was
So
they're-
Oregon State was pretty good this year.
Stanford's horrible. Cal's not any good.
Yeah. So if they're 8-4, they're
Arizona
about
State-
where I'm
Arizona won
saying they're
one
going to
game
be.
this season.
So I'm just saying I don't
You
think
can
they're
only
going to be
sit
that
on your
good.
name. You can only sit on who you are as a as what you've done in the past for so long.
Well, in the transfer portal, he'll get transfers
He will
by the
exploit.
by
he
the
will
February date.
exploit the West Coast.
Will he get a bunch of
drastically.
guys who refuse to play for him and then they transfer and go somewhere else?
I think
Because
they
that
go
was the
8-4
track record
next year.
here.
They'd probably go 10-2 the year after that, and then they're a playoff team in 24.
I'll bet against that.
I want to take that bet.
I'll bet against all three of those things working. I think they'll be 6-6 next year, and I don't think they'll make the playoff. That's
6 and
a good
6?
I
bet.
think you're giving the Pac-12 too much credit.
I bet
6?
Pac-12
it's
is
tough,
just
man.
horrible.
It's tough.
So I could see.
What is he going to get? Do you think there's all this unlocked talent that he's going to
Yeah.
get this value? That where has it been? What has been the USC recruiting class over the last 5 years?
What I like so much about college and my intrigue with coaching changes, it never ceases to amaze me how much a team can
Say
change
that a little louder.
when they change a coaching staff.
It's
It really is remarkable.
You look at his schedule; it's 8-4 at worst, and that's based on sheerly because they're not going to pull in the names. USC is going to pull in names based on the fact that they have SC
I'll bet against it.
attached to
Let me
them.
put it this way: so apparently we
You look
had
at the schedule; it's bad.
apparently
That-
we had a
that schedule is
5-star
bad.
we had a 5-star defensive end silently committed to us, and Jamar Kane had been recruiting his butt off, and we were about to have a 5-star defensive tackle in Dindy and a 5-star defensive end Marvin Jones Jr. coming in. His mom, Marvin Jones Jr.'s mom, when Lincoln pulled what he pulled,
Thrashed
just
OU.
thrashed OU and Lincoln on Twitter all day long.
like it was OU's fault.
Guess who just visited USC yesterday? Marvin Jones freaking Jr.
I will
2 days
say
after Kane gets announced.
Good riddance, and they'll probably be a well-suited match for each other. Just like a lot of these players who are.
I'm just you were talking about
So
the talent.
much-
Where's the talent going to come
Yeah,
from?
no. If
I think
you
he's
can get
going
the
to close.
Spencer Rattlers of the world all you want, and I'm not knocking Spencer Rattler, but I'm saying these guys
Sounds like
who
you are.
go in
No, I am.
and I'll knock how well he did, and I think it's a lot of Lincoln to blame. I feel very sorry for the kid, but you look at these guys, if they're so stupid as to think that OU's at fault for that, or to use that as an excuse, we don't want these kids to play for us.
Brent
We want
Venables-
kids that have a brain.
Exactly. Brent Venables had an amazing quote in his press conference the other day, talking about how his recruiting approach and everything, and the fact that he's not going to go recruit a kid who hasn't played varsity football for for less than a couple years, and the fact that, and it, in my opinion, shade at Lincoln for offering Spencer as a ninth
I
grader.
think that's what happened with
and
Rattler.
then goes on to say, you recruit your problems.
Yes, he
And
did say that. yeah.
I saw so much of, God, talk about eye-opening. It's like, holy mother effer. How many problems did we recruit in the last 5 years? Like, just the toxicity
Yeah.
of some of this stuff.
Yeah,
and
Get past the armed robberies or all
exactly.
of that stuff. You
Even
just look at
my-
the guys who, the
Yes.
toxicness.
Even my own, like,
Homerism.
yes, homerism, naivety, however you want to call it, to say, a bad apple and a batch of good ones, or just giving everyone this free pass because it's like, oh man, but look at the stars that were attached to his name, or look at how good he was. Like, why would we not want him? As opposed to, man, like, how much of this cancer has spread, and it was a cancer. Like, and Lincoln Riley's probably the center of it, right? Lincoln Riley's the one who's
Link.
inducing the cancer.
Link.
So it's just, I don't know. It was
Yeah, his philosophy is
Crazy.
definitely get the talent regardless, whether it's a fit or it works out
We'll
or
see what we
whatever.
can do with you.
See what we do, and Venables seems to be the exact opposite. We're going
Right.
to get
The guy
the
we
people
want.
that want to be here,
Yeah.
who plays the way we want them to play, and
They're gonna
we're going to
buy
wait
in.
until their senior year and watch their film. Did they improve, or were they just a stud? Were they bigger than everybody in 10th grade,
Yeah.
and they never got better?
It's a great
And
point.
people
Venables
caught up
is
to
never
him.
going to care about being that. Oh my gosh, we have to offer this kid first, or we're not going to get him.
Right.
Okay, if I'm going to offer you at all, it's because I want you, as opposed to, oh, I just need to be on your list.
Right.
And this could just be, getting older and seeing how things are now. But I remember Bob saying, we were all, I'm sure I was too, complaining about not recruiting at the level that I thought we should be recruiting. And Bob used to say, we get the guys we're supposed to get. I think it was almost exactly what he said. Like, the guys that
will fit in the system,
that fit here and come here, are the guys that we wanted. Like, yes, we didn't get this guy over here, but we didn't really want this guy over here. I understand he's, quote, better and higher ranked, but that's not the guy we wanted.
Yep.
Yeah,
Now, that's probably not 100% true. I'm sure we missed out on
absolutely.
better versions of those guys as
and we're
well.
You
always
can err
gonna
on both
miss.
sides,
We're always gonna
but
miss.
I'd rather have a guy that's got a game plan and has a firm idea of the type of athlete and the type of student athlete, this type of brain that he wants in his system, versus the guy that basically is just going to go down and say, is there 5 stars? I want this guy.
Now, I hope Venables has the cachet, which I think he does, to do what he's talking about, because Clemson doesn't send out a bunch of offers.
Right.
And
Right.
basically, when you get that Clemson offer,
Right.
not only
That's
is
a
it
worry.
prestigious,
That's
but
a worry.
also if you verbally committed to Clemson, you were done taking visits. There was no more like, oh, I've got 3 more officials. I'm
still
going to go
open,
see
yeah,
somebody
I'm
else.
still
They're like,
open,
no,
yeah.
no, like
It's
don't
us
do it.
or no.
It's that, like, if you go, you're gone. We're going to go.
That's not a bad
find
way to
somebody
be.
else. But does Oklahoma have the cachet that Clemson did, or is that all Venables? And I know
honestly,
we're joking because
come
it's
on.
Oklahoma.
Come on.
But we're talking about kids from the Southeast. Also.
True.
Not just
you got to build that up. You
not
got to
just
earn
some
it.
Texas
I agree.
kids.
No,
Texas
it's a
kids,
great
I get
point.
it. A
You got to
Florida
earn
kid,
it.
a
You gotta
Florida
earn
kid,
it.
is he looking at Oklahoma the same way they were looking at Clemson? Maybe with Venables, they do.
That's what I like so much, though, and it's been talked about a lot this week, is the clout that Venables has on the recruiting trail, and the fact that Homeboy just goes in there and I think he just lays it all on the table.
Yeah.
I
And,
think
like-
he's just so intense that people are like, God, I do
Dude,
want to play for this guy.
I met the guy one time, and I wanted to run through a damn brick wall.
Did
Like,
you see the 4-part write-up that he had? I haven't read it yet. It
Oh,
was
the
sent to
Athletic, I
me.
think.
Yeah, and it was him telling
It was
his
from
life
a couple
story.
years ago.
Yeah, him
Yeah.
telling his life
I haven't-
story.
No,
It's-
I haven't read it or watched.
I haven't read it
so
yet.
The
It's
YouTube, they
supposed
have
to
the
be.
YouTube video on it as well, right?
Yeah, well, that's him giving that speech about it. I think it's
This
the
is
same
something
thing.
Athletic did
It
an
was.
article on him,
It's
like, 3 or 4
apparently
years
just
ago.
amazing. Like the fact that the guy isn't either in prison or
Strung
just
out.
just a lunatic is amazing. The way he turned his life around and stayed on the straight and narrow and what he's done. So I think he's that guy. I think that's one of his key attributes, and it's probably what he brings into homes when he's recruiting people.
And according
my
to the
veins.
national analysts that do recruiting and stuff, Venables was the go-to closer for Dabo. Offense or
That says
defense, it didn't matter what player it was. Venables was the last guy that went in there and talked to the kids.
Well, that's
before
who
they
I
came.
want. I want the closer. That's absolutely
Well,
awesome.
I mean that's we talked about it when we were watching the press conference the other day, and we were watching the intro to him. So well orchestrated by OU again, just like,
Amazing.
phenomenal. But just how unscripted, how not, and I've said it in a couple different ways, but he's not going through and checking the coach's jargon boxes.
No, he's not.
He's just
not.
saying, "You're going to ask me a question. I'm going to give you my answer, and I'm gonna run through probably 4 or 5 paragraphs of this answer.
Right.
But I'm not going to check these. It's hard work and determination.
No,
and all this
how-
other BS. That
His
we've
entire
heard
presentation
for
in that
5
press
years.
conference and everything. So I have a colleague at work, and we had a meeting that we thought was going to interfere with me getting to see it, and turns out the meeting didn't happen. The client didn't show up, and so
Was
we
it
were able
Lincoln
to.
Riley at the Dean Blevins show?
Yeah, exactly. I felt like that.
It's gonna be 4 to 5
So we were
hours.
able to get back. I think they actually wanted to watch it, and they didn't. So we ended up getting back in time. We could turn it on the TV and watch. And she goes, "I'll preview it for you." And she ran through all the cliches, and
Coach
I thought
speak.
coach speak stuff and new hire speak stuff, and I was fully expecting that. And then he gets up there, and there was none of that cliche nonsense.
None of it.
None of it. He spoke from the heart
It
and
was
spoke
straight up.
very intellectually and had a lot of great things to say that was very interesting to hear.
Yeah. No, it was captivating.
It was
It was a very captivating. Not only does his presentation to say you're the head coach, but also the presser afterwards, and it was fun sitting there and watching a coach who's never been a head coach, clearly not on the podium a ton, and sit there and give you like, this is how I'm going to talk to my players, okay?
Yeah.
This is how I'm going to do, okay? And it's just like, man, it's great. Like it's It was
Refreshing.
such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
And it's, again, just that removing of this smoke screen that I've had in front of me. And I'll give Lucas and I'll give Jay a little bit of credit. You guys,
Just a little.
you guys played a realist mentality that I didn't want to accept. I will be a homer.
I didn't want to.
And when you
either.
guys start the FU Brent Venables stuff, I will 100% keep that smoke screen up and say, do you guys not remember the press conference and how much I loved it? And this is the guy that we have, because that'll be me. But I don't know. I think there's a lot of pundits out there who maybe don't understand the magnitude that this hire has had on the program.
Mm-hmm.
And Sunday night being at
It's
the
been remarkable.
Yeah,
the
just the
groundswell
outpouring.
of everybody.
The
I mean,
outpouring.
the fan base to go from a 10-win team. I know the season was, in our standards, disappointing.
We're 10-2.
Right, we're 10-2, and we all felt like the whole season, and maybe even the last couple years, have just been letdowns.
Oh, absolutely
and I
letdowns.
think
And
we
this year
all
was just like
knew-
a weird Twilight Zone.
We all knew deep down inside
Something's not right.
Lincoln's not the guy
Something's not
to
right.
take us to the SEC. I've been hoping, like, God, I hope we don't go to the SEC right away. There's things we have to
Yeah,
fix
credit to you. You
in
have
this
you have
team
pointed that out
before
yeah.
we do that.
It's true.
But for your coach to leave and then for it all to come together the way it has, maybe it falls flat on its face. I don't think it's going to whatsoever.
Even
But-
if it does, it's not because we're not Oklahoma and we're not the big time program we are. You look at the contrast between the two, and you look at Lincoln Riley's face in that weird ass video, whatever that Saturday Night Live skit thing was that he was involved in. And you look at the comparison of how they were received at the airport. You look at the comparison of all the press conferences, and you just see that we are a program head and shoulders above USC.
And to me, the irony of it all is I don't think this happens if Lincoln Riley leaves in a somewhat normal scenario or takes an NFL job. I don't think the galvanization occurs. Lincoln's big FU, OU football isn't all that. You're not that big. You're not that badass. Him saying that to us and leaving the way he did has actually awoken
it did.
the giant.
It
What
did.
I wonder, though, is to put it in the parallel that I tried before with the Thunder, is Kevin Durant left, Westbrook stepped up, re-signed, everybody galvanized, Russell's the man, he's sticking with us, he's awesome, he's one of us, and all that. And then 3 years later, you got a bunch of, well, Westbrook's never going to be able to win the championship because his style, this and
Well,
that.
I would say the difference would be that you're looking at trying to put it on the shoulders of one player who was perennially overrated has been throughout his entire career. He statistically has never lived up to the billing of what he is. The guy just shoots too much. And he did have a phenomenal season, that season after
The
Durant
MVP
left.
year.
And
But everybody galvanized behind him because
Yeah.
Durant
but
did
that's
us
all that
dirty,
was.
quote unquote.
That
like
was emotion.
Lincoln Riley.
This isn't emotion.
But yeah,
Okay.
This
we-
is
we gal- we
reality of what we
galvanized
have.
behind a person in that. I'm galvanizing behind a team and a program collectively.
And a
as-
leader
Yes.
who's truly a leader for
Yeah.
that program. Russell Westbrook could only do so much.
Well, in the pros, I don't know how much coming together you can necessarily have as an organization.
Right, 'cause you're-
winning in college. There's so much to it.
Well, I mean, look at
the
all the
alumni.
players.
But we're a
and the
winning program.
posters
We're a program that
and
the Thunder can't compare to
former
Oklahoma
players.
I wasn't
football.
trying to compare everything like
No, yeah,
identical,
yeah.
but
No,
I'm
no,
just
I know
saying
what
the
you're
feeling of galvanization.
to relieve
came-
your
you're saying.
yeah.
Everybody's like, "Oh, Russell's the man. He's one of us." All this,
Right, yeah,
It feels
sure.
that way because Brent was here before. He's back. We're all like, "Yeah, Venables. He's the guy. He's the man for the job."
Yeah.
and I do feel that way. I'm just saying, I hope it doesn't turn down the road in 3 or 4 years when our defense is
Well, we're in real trouble.
is
with that.
45th.
Yeah.
Like,
That's
right.
I thought
that's
we were going to
the
be a top
worry.
15
But let me
defense
put
to Brent
rest to
Venables.
that worry. It's not comparable. It's not anything close. Brent Venables is the leader of this team. Russell Westbrook was a player on a team within a program and an organization that still doesn't have its head screwed on right and doesn't know what they want to be.
I think, to be pessimistic, Venables has to work, or we as a program are in trouble. I mean, if it doesn't work and we go
Well-
into the SEC and we're a 4-win team, it's going to be really, really hard
4 wins would be
pull
for
yourself
us to
Um,
pull ourselves up
yes.
out of that.
Yep.
We got 2 things to think about there. One is we are a big program with a lot of support. So we're not Oklahoma State in 2011 making the leap to the SEC. And if that doesn't work, they are screwed. Because we are a big program. But we also, the other thing to think about is we could be the next Nebraska. And Nebraska still isn't dead, and they could still revitalize, but it's tough. And it's getting tougher
They didn't
every
establish
season.
themselves to be a name in that conference to where they can pull.
They
in
haven't had the
people that
leadership.
need.
They haven't had the coaching. And
Our only difference
they,
with Nebraska is they killed themselves on their recruiting grounds.
Right.
So as a state, Nebraska, we probably have more
We-
players than Nebraska does by state, which it's not
Not
much
that
more.
that matters much.
But
we're next
not
to Texas.
we're not losing Texas.
Right.
So
and we're going
in
to a
those
better
regards,
recruiting area
It's different
that
but
we can tap into.
It'll
I agree.
be harder for us to
No,
be
it's
Nebraska
at risk.
than Nebraska.
I totally agree. It's at
to
risk.
themselves.
It's at risk. And we don't have to have Brent Venables work, but it's going to be a really big uphill climb if it doesn't. And if it doesn't, it's probably big regime change. I mean, you're looking at maybe analogous to the loss of Wilkinson in that era, and then it took a while for a new regime to come into town with Jim McKenzie and everybody that he brought in. And there's no reason it has to work out that way, other than this is a place that will pay for football. And that is the big key that we've got. We
it
will
sounds
pay for
like-
football.
They've decided to open up the checkbook.
I would imagine so. It's going to be very interesting to see what those contracts look like. I wrote in to Joe C. and said I'd do it for $1 million a year, and he wrote me a note back. He said we'll think about it, but
You're on the table.
I'm still waiting on the Pac-12 teams to contact me.
Yeah.
Because I can.
I bet you can.
I can sit in the stands and tell you what play Lincoln's going to
Just
run.
give you a seat in the end zone, baby.
74% of the time.
Give you that end zone.
Yep.
We got the end zone
That's
analyst.
all
Just
game.
give me a CB.
The
and I'll
end zone
sit-
analyst.
You
I'll
can
walk
should
and talk.
change your Twitter to end zone
The end zone
analyst.
analyst.
Oh, I like
Send me a
that.
walkie-talkie,
Oh, that is an
and I'll
awesome
sit in
Twitter
the end zone,
handle.
and I will signal in the play call.
The
as
end
soon as
zone
the formation
analyst. I
lines
love
up.
it. You're right. You probably will. I mean, you would. I mean,
And
I think any of
I
us
mean,
would, but you could.
just
You'd sit there and
help-
just
yeah.
you just know what he's going to
I'll-
do.
Every week. I'll work for a different team in the Pac-12. Won't
Now-
hurt my feelings one bit.
To just get all giddy, because I feel like being giddy, we technically hired the best offensive coordinator in the country. You could call Lincoln or somebody else. I'm sure there's a close second or third, and the best
120.
defensive coordinator in the country. So, scheme wise,
point.
X's and O's,
That's a good
we
point.
have as good of a shot as anybody out there.
I thought,
pull this
I
out.
thought
We're not
Texas-
going to be a less than team.
I thought
We're
Texas
not.
hired the best offensive coordinator in the country when they got Sark.
We're not going to be a less than team when
According
we,
to Texas.
when we play next year either. Our floor next year is, if we're under 9 wins, it's a bad year. And
Oh,
To
it's
me,
a
but
really
to me,
bad
that's
year.
the beauty.
and that's very bottom of the barrel
84.
type of.
I know this is a little different.
You're crazy.
It's a slightly
That's an
different
insane
topic, but
number.
it's still kind of on par. I always thought, as an NFL GM, it would be hard to evaluate like an Alabama player, just because they're surrounded by so much talent
good
and they're
point.
better than everybody else.
That's a good point.
So Sark, that's how I felt about Sark. It's like, oh great, he ran Alabama's offense and they looked incredible. Good job.
Right.
Like whoop-de-doo. You don't have those players at Texas.
Right.
The difference is Levy was the top offense
And
in
didn't
the
have
SEC,
those
and
players.
he did not have those players.
Well, Lane Kiffin did at Bama, and you could say the same thing. You could say the same thing you're saying about Sark with Lane Kiffin
Yes,
because
I
he
mean-
did
Well, he
that
could.
at Bama.
That's not the point he's
and
making.
now
But
he's
that's
doing
not-
it
that's not the
at
point
Ole
he's
Miss.
making.
Yeah, but it's not his point.
So you can't just say it's all Levy
No.
when
No, I'm saying the difference
No,
between Levy
that
and
doesn't
Sark
follow.
is my point. My point is,
Yeah.
anybody here is. I felt that way about the Georgia defensive coordinator thing when Lanning was maybe a potential head coaching candidate, and I'm thinking to myself, anyone sitting here could go coach the Georgia defense.
Right.
Right. I mean,
Yeah, how hard is it to tell the guy that's bigger and stronger than everybody else
right.
go tackle
until
the
you
quarterback?
Be
until
bigger
you
and
go up
stronger.
against Alabama, and then that's where the coaching
Uh-huh.
acumen comes into play. But
Good point.
so I
I
think
think
it's
it's a
a
great
good
point.
time anytime you have a guy that can take a team with lesser talent, like a Bryles did with Baylor.
Like a Mike Leach?
Yeah, I'll
Kentucky?
even say like I'll even give it up to Gundy in Oak State. I think Gundy.
Oh, absolutely.
Is I don't like him. He's a very underrated coach. I think Gundy would kill
Underrated?
it if he had taken like the Tennessee job a couple years ago.
Or
Or if Gundy went to
5
Oregon,
6 years ago.
if Gundy
yeah.
took the Oregon job,
Dude.
Oregon
put that-
straight up.
I think you're
straight up
probably
winning
right.
the whole
No, I think you're
conference
probably
every
right. I think the underrated is the part that I'm hung up on, but it comes and it goes. But right now, he's probably underrated.
Nationally,
Nationally, yeah. No, and even in Stillwater, it's hard to know because they get so fickle on the guy. I've always said he's the best fit for them because he's never going to go anywhere. And what else are you going to
You're
get?
never going to get anything else. He'll be Joe Paterno of Stillwater.
That's a great point. I think that you look at Mangino and what he did at Kansas. I mean,
Do you want to be the Joe Paterno of anywhere?
Hey man,
if
not-
you
no
wanted to
shame.
test a Mangino after he was on
Obviously.
a national championship team, then you send him to Kansas and see what he did. That was amazing.
It was amazing.
It was amazing.
They won an Orange Bowl.
Yeah,
They won an Orange
Who
Bowl.
did they lose to? Was that the Texas year?
that was Texas.
They
yeah.
lost to Texas.
So
and I'm pretty
Kansas
sure
should have
they
been
lost
playing in the
to-
national
They lost to
They lost to
the
Missouri
dollars.
as well, I'm
Yeah,
pretty
that's
sure.
what he said.
Yeah.
No, they only had one loss.
They lost to the officials.
They had one loss.
They only had one loss.
Texas
No, Kansas only had one loss that year.
to
We didn't
Texas.
play them in
Right.
the Big 12 championship.
Oh no!
We weren't in
What
it.
We
year?
played Missouri.
What year is that?
That was 2007. We played Missouri. I'm pretty sure Missouri beat them. In
Yeah,
the
Missouri
rivalry.
did. Yeah, we played
You
Missouri
sure
was
they had two
number one.
losses? I
Yeah,
thought they only had
The
one.
dollar signs one was the 05 season that
Yeah.
Texas went to the national championship with Vince Young.
right. And they
07.
I remember
they
playing
lost to-
Kansas
call.
in 07 and being drastically nervous about it.
Yeah, we
Oh,
played.
absolutely.
We
Not
played Missouri in the
comfortable.
Big 12 championship. Kansas
Number one,
only had
and
the
we
one
upset
loss.
we upset
That's why they
Missouri in
didn't
the Big
play
12 title
'cause
game.
Missouri had the tiebreaker
Gotcha.
over Kansas.
Yeah, so they were that Mangino was that close to and
With
who knows
Kansas.
who knows they might win the national championship. That was a good football team.
That was a really good
a
football
high
team.
school football team he took to almost win the college national
Really good
championship.
football team.
And now all Kansas can do is beat
That's a
Texas.
great point. I like that.
almost beat us.
You're putting homerism right in my veins. I love it.
So is Lebby not bringing anybody with on his staff with him?
I'm wondering
It's
if
literally-
there's stipulations there because I mean
There's no spots.
I heard everything around. He might bring offensive line coach and Biedenbo's staying. So I don't know what the deal is there. If it's just like I'm going to work with whom I have or what.
He
The
might
only
be
thing
happy.
we don't know is some people had speculated that they don't know if Kale can be just a great wide receiver coach, if that's really his niche.
He's an inside wide. He's been the inside wide receiver coach.
Right,
for a
but
while.
maybe
who's produced
but
some
maybe
really good
he could
inside
be
wide receivers.
maybe he could be the special teams kind of jack of all trades coach, and
Yeah.
and maybe Lebby has a wide receiver coach he wants to bring in.
So we don't need a designated special teams coach. I'll never buy into that. But we need someone coaching special teams as a priority for sure. I think Lincoln tried to take that under his belt maybe this year.
I
and
think-
I don't know who it
failed
was.
My only
drastically.
thing
No,
is
back to the Levy thing real
Yeah.
quick. It's Mississippi. They might not have any coaches he wants to bring with him.
I don't.
What
yeah,
about
so-
analysts? Well, I heard a rumor of Kevin Sumlin could come back as an analyst
Bring
Oh,
it.
That'd be good.
because I don't think he's employed
Please.
anywhere right now.
Yeah,
That'd be good.
His
his
kids
son
on
plays on
yeah.
the
Son
team.
plays on the team.
Yeah, that'd be
Give
awesome.
his son a scholarship and then come back.
Nice.
Make that
Yeah.
write that up as part
I mean,
of the
if we're really
contract.
opening the checkbook, we should be hiring 5 extra analysts or whatever.
I totally
The
agree.
TFB, the football brainiacs, they put a post up last night that we're going to double our staff, our support staff.
Well,
Yeah,
if Bama
good.
can have ex-head coaches as analysts, we could have guys like Sumlin. Or,
I would rather have the guys. I mean, ex-head coaches are great, but I would rather have the guys that. Well, I guess a lot of these guys at Alabama would qualify for this too. That want to get to the next level,
Rehab.
or get back to the job, rehab it, whatever, however you want to term it, and they're either you're next in line to be your coach on the team, or you're getting everything you can from them, and they're going to make a
So we
jump
get
the next
Mike
Yeah,
year.
you make it.
Stoops
It's
as an
not a step.
analyst.
It's not a stepping stone. It's an.
I would take
I
it.
would take Mike Stoops as a defensive analyst,
Yeah.
without question.
Underrated. I'm telling you, Mike Stoops and
Well, their brains together.
Josh Heupel.
I mean,
underrated.
Well, Brent already left because of Mike Stoops coming in. I don't think he's going to hire Mike Stoops.
He didn't leave because of Mike Stoops. He left because he wasn't going to take
The role he
the
was gonna
demotion.
take
He
with
wasn't going to.
Stoops.
Yeah.
I remember from that time, Bob said, Mike's coming in, but you're still calling plays, Brent. That's what I remember the entire time.
Yeah, but the problem
It's
is
still a demotion.
It
but,
is.
but let's
How's
say
it still demotion if Brent's still
He
calling
was
plays?
the
Because-
defensive coordinator.
but
Now he's
sharing
not,
duty. You're
and he's
sharing
the
duty.
assistant head
it's not.
coach.
It's not even that. I don't even think it's the duties. I think what it is let's say the next year and year after that, your defense significantly improves. Oh, it's because Mike Stoops.
Mike
came back.
Exactly.
Yeah, but if Brent doesn't have the ego that we think he doesn't have, then
But that's almost like
That's a
that's
professional-
hard to
it's-
say
that's
though.
a
That's
career thing.
Yeah, that's a career move.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't care how-
And how can you doubt the move he made? He made. I mean, my God.
I don't doubt it. I'm
And
just saying, at
Clemson-
the time, what I remember hearing was Bob said, we're going to bring Mike back in. You're still calling the plays.
So what? I don't know.
Brent."
I guess I don't get your point.
So,
why would he come back? Why would Brent want Mike back,
yeah.
even as an analyst?
You think Brent had a problem with Mike Stoops? I
No,
don't think so.
I think it happened just like I said, that what Jay said was if the defense did get better, then everybody's like, oh, it's a good thing Mike came back to help Brent with the defense.
Okay,
That's
but
why we're better.
I
But
don't.
If he
still-
was a
it shouldn't-
staff member,
I don't think that would matter.
that would still be a
Bring
role.
him
As
on
an
now.
analyst who just watches
Well, he's
game
got a
film,
defensive coordinator job currently. He's not going to leave
That's
that to come be a analyst at OU.
But he
Like,
sucks so bad he'll probably get fired.
He could get paid. He could get paid more as being an analyst at OU than being a DC at freaking FIU.
There you go. I like that.
I don't know. It depends on what they're paying the
That's
analyst.
and he
Pam.
could come home.
Because weren't they saying that, like, when Mike was at Bama as an analyst, weren't they only making like
Oh.
$50,000 a year? Or something
It's
like
not
that?
much. Yeah,
no,
it
I think
was
it was.
not
like
I
much.
think it was
50.
tiered though between like what your
Who you
experience
were,
was.
but it wasn't much.
But it wasn't
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah, it was like $50,000 a year. It was literally
It
just for the
wasn't a
rehab.
It wasn't the
All those coaches were doing that.
$325,000.
You're right.
Mike's
that-
probably
You're right.
not-
He's not in the market.
Mike's
You're
probably
right.
not realistic, but I mean, someone
But to
is.
the point. To the
What about a
point,
Mangino?
right?
What's Mangino do?
Yeah.
Losing
right?
weight. He's
what's
lost
he-
weight.
Absolutely.
He looks great.
Now,
Absolutely
those analysts
bring him
can't
in.
participate on field practice.
Right.
Right.
They have no
Right.
interaction at all, really, with the players
So
whatsoever.
they just watch film and relay it to the coaches.
But you can be in game and relaying what you see during the game. You can help with halftime adjustments. You can help with all that kind of stuff.
yeah, I'm not. I don't really know.
I mean,
don't
no,
know if
I mean,
they're-
no. They did a shot of Nick Saban's analyst. They had a box, almost like a third base coach box
Huh.
on the sideline that they all stood in with headsets on and just railing into their
I
headsets.
thought they couldn't be on
And
the
there is
sideline.
there is
I
no
thought they had to be
question.
in a
There is
box.
one glaring weakness that we've had for several years, and that is halftime
Halftime adjustments.
I mean, it's not even.
Yeah.
No, it's almost
Except
negative. It's
against
almost
Kansas, we
it's
went
almost
from-
negative.
Now maybe
From 0
yeah,
points
true.
to 35
But
points.
maybe
Yeah,
we
I think
don't
it's one
need
guy.
them with our new
think it was
with our
Caleb.
new staff entirely. But no, I agree. I think all of this would be a big benefit if someone else is employing this.
Doesn't
and-
Gibbs live here? Doesn't
and
Gibbs?
It's working. Why
Still live
wouldn't
here?
you try to get it?
We live here. That's all that matters.
We should.
But
be
doesn't Gary
his
Gibbs live in
analyst.
Norman?
I don't know.
Barry
I don't,
Switzer
I don't know
does.
every Norman resident.
Put him on. Put the king.
Bob,
on
Oh,
his
God.
name.
Bob Stoops does too. Bob Stoops.
There you
lives in
go.
Atlanta.
Bob Stu, he'd do it. He'd do it for free.
He would do it.
We
for
went.
free.
I guess
It'd
we'll.
be good.
Would you take
let's
Bob
do another
Stoops as your
pod
defensive
before the
coordinator?
bowl games? We can discuss.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we'll
we
do
should
another
definitely
pod
do a
before the bowl game. We're
pre-bowl
gonna wrap
pod.
this one up.
Yep.
Anything else to cover before?
I'm pumped.
I'm pumped too.
I'm super
I'm
excited.
super excited.
I hate that we have to
Let's
wait
go.
till September.
You're not pumped?
I'm pumped.
He's pumped.
He's a homer. Luke's
we
a
got
homer
we got
now.
we are all
Definitely
homers
not
now.
homer.
Luke's
I
a
like
homer.
it.
Definitely
Luke,
not
yep,
homer.
we got it.
All right. Well,
All right,
Boomer
Boomer Sooner.
Sooner.
Boomer Sooner.